Hello and welcome to Southeastern 16. Today we are previewing and predicting Kentucky's matchup with Troy. The Cats, the number 3 seed, Troy number 14. This will be in Milwaukee on CBS, 6:10 Central on Friday night. The predictive computers have got Kentucky by about 14 points. Troy won the Sun Belt and will be heading into this. Is a 3 seed that's got some buzz, taking Conaway, their point guard, pretty good player. But the Cats, boy, they won some big games late in the season, won some big games early in the season too. Very excited to see Kentucky back in the tournament with some buzz around this program, Max Barr.
Yeah, we have got the Cats as about a 10.5-point favorite. I've seen it up at 11 in some spots. I believe that is still the tightest 3 to 14 seed spread. So Vegas indicating Troy, not a bad team. I think it's also a little bit of no Jackson Robinson and Lamont Butler being banged up baked into that spread. Ken Pom has this as a 12-point win for the Cats. I think this is going to have to be a huge game for Amari Williams defensively because Troy, they get to the rim at a very high rate, top 20 in close rim twos on Bart Torvik. So they are kind of like that NBA, the new analytics, the Nate Oates close twos and threes. We don't want anything in the mid-range. This is a Troy team. They're either right at the rim or they're out beyond the arc, Blake.
Boy, what an interesting profile for a 14 seed here because Troy is fascinating. And I know Kentucky fans don't want to hear that, but they are fascinating. So, Troy, as Max said, yes, they get to the rim a lot. Amari Williams, let's go ahead and pick it out right now, Max. Whose games are going to be here? I'm going to go Amari Williams. It's the Amari Williams game if Kentucky is going to win this one. But even though this team gets to the rim a lot, this profile for what they do elsewhere is just it's incredible. So they are, let's see the number here. They're 70th nationally in 3-point field goal attempts per game. They shoot about 26 per game. Now that's not good for Mark Pope. He likes that 30 number. But 26 per game is what they shoot. However, I'm sure as Kentucky fans who do their research, we love our Kentucky fans. They're going to put the work in to scout the opponent. Troy is the worst 3-point shooting team in the field. They are shooting 30.3% from 3. So they shoot a lot of them, but they aren't necessarily making a lot of them. They're also one of the worst teams in the field at taking care of the ball. And so I'm just like, I'm looking at this and I'm just thinking, man, they're just kind of all over the place when it comes to the different things you could see this team, do here. Because like Max said, they get to the rim a lot, but they're going to take a lot of threes because it is kind of that Nate Oates style, right? We're not going to, screw the mid-range stuff. Let's just either get to the rim or let's just take a three. And I think that's kind of your setup here. So I don't know. Like this is not one of those statistical profiles that like you feel like you have a good grasp on. Maybe that's a good thing, but I guess it could also be a bad thing just because it feels like there's a lot of variance here in terms of how Troy could play and how they could actually score the ball.
Well, you know where else there's been a lot of variance? Who's available for Kentucky? I think you said Jackson Robinson's out. Butler's shoulder's acting up again. Max, how do we feel about what Kentucky will roll out on the court personnel-wise?
Yeah, everyone but Jackson will be ready to go. So it'll be kind of that team that we saw to close out the regular season in the LSU, the Missouri game where you had the same lineup 2 games in a row, and we're saying, okay, we've got the first bit of lineup consistency we've had getting back-to-back lineups. So yeah, it'll be no Jackson Robinson, but like Mark Pope said, best news possible from Lamont Butler. So looks like we'll have Butler back.
Well, let's talk about game flow. What Troy would have to do to pull the upset. Anything else that stands out to you guys as notable here, starting with you, Max?
Well, Blake looks like he's just.
I mean,
Blake's got
he's
something. Let's go to him.
well, I mean, and that's the thing, right? It's a great question because if they're going to shoot a lot of threes, like if they have one of those games, which again, I hate to say that because we know, we've done that before with a certain team. But I mean, if they have one of those games, given the fact that they want to try to put some of those shots up, like sure, anything's possible, right? In the NCAA tournament, one game setting. But the percentages just tell us that that's not the case. Something else Troy, I think, has to do if they're going to win this game. They got to force turnovers against the team that does a really good job of taking care of the ball. What else do they have to do? Max, I know you've seen this stat. Like Troy's top 10 in the country in offensive rebounding percentage. Yep. They do a great job on the glass because of why? If they're getting to the rim a lot and, you're able to get some of those maybe around the glass where you've got everyone around the rim, all right, let me, get a hand on it. We get an offensive rebound. Why else? Because if you're taking a lot of threes, then, maybe it's get some of those long rebounds and things like that. So I think that's where, to me, those are the areas for Kentucky where they have been pretty good. So Troy has to get offensive rebounds off of misses. Kentucky's done a good job of preventing that. Troy has to force turnovers. Kentucky's done a good job of preventing that too. And so, to me, statistically, when you look at this, and again, like even if we say, all right, Troy's got to have a great hot shooting night. Well, guess what else Kentucky's done well this year? They're top 30 nationally in three-point defense. So statistically, there are a lot of things here that if you're looking for those kind of profiles, sure, you may, be a little bit more nervous with some of the other seeds, like a 13 or 14. But again, I cannot stress this enough. It is one of those teams that has, I think, what was it, Max? The Veasan used the word frantic. Like Troy's like it's a frantic type profile to where there's a lot of variables in play to where if they just happen to go to the extreme on one of those categories, it can completely flip the way the game plays out. So that's the hard thing, is to really get a grasp on how this could play out from Troy's perspective, even though for the first time in a while we can actually say we have a little bit more confidence in what we're going to see from Kentucky because, well, we actually know who's going to be on the floor for Kentucky.
Yeah. To sum it up, basically the place where Troy can give them trouble is at the rim twos, which Kentucky's not great at defending. But other than that, it's got to be one of those games where, spin the wheel a chance and they go 14 to 31 of three on an outlier day. Am I seeing it right here, guys?
Yeah, I think having Andrew Carr fully healthy could be a difference on the defensive rebounding and just being, straight up at 6'11" around the rim, much more of a post presence than when he's out, and Ansley Almanor at 6'7", much more on the perimeter in his role. So Andrew Carr, really, that's what it's going to come down to for me. Also, Lamont Butler staying in front as the first defender and not letting the Rigsby brothers, Connerway, get downhill and get to the rim where they're either drawing contact or they're flinging it up there and it's hanging around the rim and you're going for an offensive rebound. Lamont Butler at the point of attack, and then Carr, and especially I think it really, we're saying it a second time now, really I think it's big time Amari Williams, twofold, because of how Troy relies on offensive rebounding and Amari Williams' defensive rebounding rate, and then also the at the rim finishing that Troy has. Amari Williams, block rate, rim protection. He's going to be the MVP of this game, in my opinion. Amari Williams.
Yeah, I say we just go to picks if you guys are ready.
I'm going Cats here. I'm going Cats. I don't think it's surprising as a 10.5 favorite, but I think there are some things that Troy can do with their guards, having Lamont Butler back, having Amari Williams. Those two difference makers. Andrew Carr's healthy. Give me the Cats.
Yeah, I've been trying to talk through this now for almost 10 minutes, trying to figure out what I'm missing here. Again, the computer model I've got shows it more like 14. I can't figure out why it's 10. Maybe it's the sporadic nature of the way Troy plays, and frankly, the way Kentucky's played at times too. Maybe it's the injuries to Butler and some other guys, but it almost feels like the more you hurt Kentucky, the better that team plays. So I'm going Kentucky here. You haven't mentioned Otega Airways' name yet, which, I mean, he has just been a rock of consistency for that team in a game where a go-to scorer can kind of take over and win you a game. I think Kentucky's got enough parts and then some to win with him being key. Give me the Cats. This is not a game that I've really spent a lot of time turning over in my head as an upset pick, so I feel pretty confident in this one.
I will say a couple things just if we want to cover all bases here. There are some things I like about Troy. Their entire sort of, I don't know if it's everybody, but I know it's the starting lineup. They've all played together for multiple years. Like there's continuity on the roster. So that's something to keep in mind. You got some guys who have played, some games together, and I think that's important, especially when you get to this time of year. Maybe, if you're like, all right, got a little momentum going, maybe we hit some shots early, we're feeling it. Hey, we've been in these spots before in this game or that game. These are guys who played a lot together. Scott Cross, Troy's coach, he is a tremendous basketball coach, like basketball mind. He was at UT Arlington, if you guys remember. This was back, 2013 to 18. One of the I don't know what happened there, but eventually, they parted ways with him after he came off of a season where he won 27 games, the year before. He's won 20 in a row, 20 or more in 4 straight years at Troy. That's not an easy thing to do. And so, like you said, he's a very analytical coach. I'm sure the analytics will play into this. There's probably some things he's spotting here with Kentucky where he's like, all right, the analytics tell me this is how we do this to try to combat this with whatever the Cats are doing, right? At the same time, Max knows I love the VEASAN. And I always look at the Cinderella qualifiers, right? They do this long list of teams that check all the boxes historically for teams that can play Cinderella. Troy is in the bottom 6. There are 15 seeds, 14 seeds, 16 seeds that are higher than Troy in terms of just the way that the analytical stuff plays out over the years in the NCAA tournament to spot the Cinderella teams. They also do something that is potential upset victims, right? So what are the teams that check all the boxes of being the upset victims? If you're me and you're picking Oregon, look the hell out because they check every single box for potential upset victims. So if you're a Liberty fan out there, you're welcome. But Kentucky is pretty far down that list. They're a little ways down. They're 16th or 17th, I think, on that list of potential victims of first-round games. So I say all that to give you just, some statistical items. I'm going to pick Kentucky in this game. I just think, like we said, to me, the things that Troy does well are things that Kentucky can prevent them from doing well. And I think the things that Troy has to do to win, again, I just think that's where Kentucky can match them in those areas. So a healthy Cats team, just for 40 minutes. That's all we're looking for. Just give us a healthy group of Wildcats for 40 minutes. I think Kentucky wins if that's the case.
Yeah, and one last note, like you said, to cover all bases, Troy does get to the foul line a good bit. Kentucky's just kind of average, a little above average at preventing teams getting to the foul line. They're not a great free throw shooting team. They're almost 73%. So, I mean, that's the other thing. Say Troy goes 27 to 31 from the free throw line. That's another outcome, but it's a long shot. But if you like your long shots, Blake, boy, do we have the partner for you this March.
One more thing before I tell you about bracket bids. Troy, games against opponents in this field, at least top-tier opponents. November 13th, lost 65-49 at Arkansas, 82-61 November 17th at Oregon, 62-42 at Houston on December 10th. So just to cover all that too. All right, bracket bids, check it out. You guys know we've been talking about it a lot. Check out our friends at Bracket Bids. Enter into the free pick'em contest, or you can start an auction draft league to play there. You can check all the rules and everything on the site to see how it works. For league play, use that promo code SE16 for 40% off. SE16, 40% off. Download their app today, Bracket Bids, or visit them at bracketbids.com.
We're picking all the SEC games in the NCAA tournament. To get those, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you don't mind, and enable your notifications so you know when we do that. For Max Barr, Blake Lovell, I'm Chris Lee of Southeastern 16. God bless you. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again soon.